Hey, what's up, people? Being a musician, sound wave phenomenon is one of my favorite subjects. It's somatics is one of the names of it, and I shared this one in my other videos when I was discussing does God exist and the classical arguments, and then I kind of put my own 2 cents in. But somatics is really fascinating because the more I studied the symbols that pop up in you can do somatics a few ways. A lot of people are building speaker boxes and pouring sand into them, but the ancients used to sometimes they'd get a bowl, fill it with water, and then rub the outside until they get it to resonate and see what pops up in the middle. And it's always some kind of sacred geometrical shape. Or they would chant over sand, get it to be manipulated. But anyways, these symbols that pop up, you could find these all over religious artwork. Anything from night shields to Indian blankets. Sacred geometry is at the core of that. I think sacred geometry is broken down to the 5 basic shapes. But beyond that, you get these somatics. And when you look at all the old religious temples and cathedrals and stuff, they're built to these specifications. And in their windows, in the stained glass windows, and on the floors and the tiles, you'll see what I call sympathetic resonance symbols, which is sacred geometry. And my philosophy teacher told me to study 2 Greek words, logos, and he asked me to look into kuma, which is their version of somatics in a sense. And I wrote this little thing here, just wanted to share it real quick. In the beginning was the Word, and a lot of times that word can be substituted with logos. And the Word was with God and was God. And God was the source of generation, organization, and destruction, or generatio ordo delio, or Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva, or however that works. In the Eastern philosophy, it is Nada Brahma, the universe is sound. And Western philosophy is the logos, the word, the vibration. So after he sent me on this quest to understand the logos or the word and somatics and how it all ties in, I just wrote this real short piece for him, and I just wanted to read it one more time. What is a word? A word is the smallest meaningful element that may be uttered. So what is utter? Complete and absolute sound. And what is sound? A wave of frequency that travels through manipulating plasmas, solids, liquids, and gas of the elements. A wave, or kuma, a motion that transfers the energy that consists of vibrations. So the word was first, energy, frequency, and vibration that manipulate the elements and cause them to generate, organize, and destruct. Much like a somatic experiment, maybe God being secondary was the effect or action. The word was the cause. If this is the case, then God does exist. If you're looking at it in a cause and effect manner. We live in a universe of energy, frequency, and vibration, generating and organizing and destroying or reorganizing all around us. So when they look back with their telescopes and their probes at the core of the known universe, they get this frequency that's pumping out. Is that a coincidence? I think not. Prior to modern science was woven into astrology, and in Latin they called it astrologia. But it was woven into the mystery schools, and it was taught, these things were taught beyond the Euclidean geometry. And I really think there's something to it. And not only a lot of people don't believe in crop circles, but I don't see why subatomic frequencies can't bombard the planet and get something like a wheat field to fold over. Although people do make these things too, but why can't this happen? If we can reproduce it, why wouldn't it happen in nature? And then if you look, a lot of the early civilizations sprouted up around where these things just happen to naturally occur. And the ancients really knew about sympathetic resonance. An example of that would be the Colossus of Memnon, I think it's called. Or it was these two huge statues that sat outside of Egypt that had these stones in them. And every morning when the earth would go through its electromagnetic induction, these stones would resonate and sing out across the whole valley just like a wake-up call. It's speculated that the pyramids were tuned into the Earth's frequency and pumping out electricity. But the more we understand the laws of vibration and sound and energy and frequency, I think we'll have a grasp of how the ancients moved gigantic stones and how they stacked the things the way they did and why they believed that the word was the source of creation. You can do the ohm and you'll get this elliptical shape just like the planets. So there's something to it. And in the old astrologia, the resonant frequencies that were being bombarded into the earth were somehow corresponded with our psychological or our human psyche. And that's why we all have these astrological zodiac signs and such. I think it's really interesting. But I don't know. I think also, at Christmas time too, we got these snowflakes as decoration, which is another representation of sacred geometry and natural patterns in nature, and I think the reason that we pray, traditionally we would pray over food, because water responds to electrical impulses and amplifies it. Why couldn't our subtle electrical body or our have some kind of impression on the water, like praying over a cup of water? Maybe not purify it, but to get the particles into geometric shape, or praying over food, which is mostly water. And I think that's been proven by Dr. Emoto's work. I think when it comes to the water divination, I think it was really just studying the sacred geometry that popped up in it. And a lot of times, those shapes, people would forecast stuff out of it. They'd look into the shape and predict, this is the shape of blah, blah, blah planet, and it might be this. The planets all have these sacred geometrical shapes and orbits and frequencies that they're pumping out. I mean, for example, what is it, Saturn, I think, or Jupiter? Saturn has a frequency that it pumps out, and then there's this sacred geometrical pattern at the pole. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's just part of how everything works in nature. I don't know. Anyways, I think it's really fascinating. If you ever get a tonoscope and you have somebody sing through it, especially classically written pieces, you know that point where the fat lady sings and she hits that big high note and just holds it out? You sing those notes into tonoscopes and you'll see, bam, sacred geometry will pop up in the sand. And as that kuma, as that wave frequency is pulsating through the crowd and it's bouncing around, reverberating through the room, it is hitting us. And we respond because we are water. How much are we? 70%, 80%. It always changes every time I look it up, but we're mostly water. So if our thoughts are in order, if we're in harmony, if we're in frequency and we're sending out positive vibrations and positive energy, then our body's going to correspond. It's just natural. If the water changes with thought, then why doesn't our whole body correspond if we're mostly water, right? That's my theory. And that's why I believe we've prayed over food and we've blessed water and we've used water as a cleansing and a holy anointment. There's a whole lot more to the subject that I can't possibly wrap up in a 10-minute video. I can go on and on and on. But if that piques anybody's interest, I would study it. It has a lot to do with history. But it's a fascinating phenomenon. Anyways, have a great day, people. Be blessed.